Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. I'm really excited to introduce Cam and Gill, and you probably guessed it, it's our 2023 Quality Shot Awards, and I can't wait to get into it because there's always some interesting discussions and topics, and we've got a lot of interesting categories to get through as well. Cam, Gill, how are you both doing?
How's it going?
I'm good, Faizan. Thank you for bringing us all together for our yearly get-together.
Exactly, yeah. Yearly get together, and hopefully we'll see. There's always some easy categories which you get through really quickly. Others, there's nice intense discussions and debates where we're trying to coerce each other into picking one choice. So I'm sure there'll be a few of those. Djokvic dominating on the men's side, and the women's side has been a bit more open. And when I was looking through the categories, I was thinking on the women's side, there's so many choices for certain things, where the men's is a bit more clear cut in others. So we can start on the ATP side, and we start off with ATP Grand Slam Match of the Year. And I'm happy for one of you to go first because I feel like that's best. Who wants to go first? Is there anyone who's keen to go first? Cam will go.
I'm easy. I think we all probably have the same answer anyway. But I mean, I've got the Wimbledon final. I'll go first. I got the Wimbledon final. I think it was weird because Wimbledon didn't feel, especially on the men's side, didn't feel that intense until that final. It sort of felt maybe a little slow. We had the curfews and stuff, and it kind of felt like it was a little bit messy. And then the final just kind of erased that. I mean, the upset with Djokvic not winning Wimbledon when everyone probably expected after that first set that he would, and then Carlos coming back, and then the final set, and all the drama that went with it. And after Djokovic winning the US Open, the only match that Djokovic lost at a slam. So it's kind of made it even more intense. But I mean, that's my easy answer. I can think of maybe 2 or 3 other matches, but they weren't Grand Slam final and between the 1 and 2. So I just went with that easy answer.
Yeah. You can also look at the context around their Roland Garros match and how that informed what we thought was going to happen coming into Wimbledon. And I think just the rivalry as a whole, where we've kind of seen it until this last match that they played at the Euro Championships, which I think everybody is going to forget very quickly. Everyone has been great and has offered its own twists and turns. This was a pretty close match. The tension was high. I think if you look at the tennis that Alcaraz played down the stretch of the 5th set, once he got up a break, insanity. Yeah. So although maybe the Cincinnati match, and I know you made it pretty easy on us, Faizan, to separate the best of 3, best of 5 categories. Maybe the Cincinnati match was both of them playing at maybe a higher level together for a longer period of time, especially in the 3rd set. Maybe, but I still think the 5th set was really good, and that's what's most important in a 5-set match. And you also had the drama of the 2nd set. That was really fun because it looked like Novak, he was a point away from going up 2 sets to love, and then he's probably Wimbledon champion.
Yep.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I agree with you guys. The magnitude of the match was through the roof, wasn't it? The anticipation as well going into it. I think all of us were saying in the previews how we were looking forward to it. And myself included, I was with the majority thinking that, okay, Alcaraz might give him a bit of a tough match, but I thought Djokovic would win it. And the experience, and Alcaraz I think he'd only played I think it was 10 grass court matches or less going into that final. So, I mean, the inexperience going into it to then show up the way he did. And I think what was most impressive was, as you said, Gil, that 5th set, the way that he played, it wasn't just the skill level, but the mentality as well. To close it out at 5-4 the way he did as well was really impressive. And Novak obviously talked about that in the post-match presser. And I mean, he was so good. Everyone will talk about the swing volley that Novak missed, but at the end of the day, for Carlos to get to that stage and really push him on a surface where a lot of people had question marks around his ability on it, I thought was really impressive. And just the improvements, if you think about from last year when he lost to Sinner in the round of 16 to now, it was amazing to see, because Djokovic almost, going into this year, a lot of people would have said, okay, maybe Australian Open more so, but Wimbledon was almost nailed on. For Novak, it's who's going to compete with him. So incredible. And it had that feeling of history around it. If Alcaraz, the way he won when he did win, which is, I guess, a bit of the Cincinnati match, as you said, Gill, like great, and then the ATP finals we'll forget about because it was straightforward and it was like, okay, we'll just forget about that. Let's just go back into the next year. But yeah, and then also the French Open beforehand, as you said, Gil, I thought it was interesting, and we didn't quite see Alcaraz at his top level, so it was like, please don't cramp, and actually ended up being Djokovic, who felt a little bit physical. But yeah, I have to go with that as well. I had some others like Tsitsipas, Timo in round one, but again, these matches are not as important. Rublev Rune Australian Open round 4, that was really dramatic.
That was fun.
Yeah, that was a really fun match, and Rune was so heartbroken. In the end, Rublev was, I think, 5-2 down in that final set, so he doesn't really come back like that normally. And then Murray Berrettini, Australian Open round 1, and then also round 2 against Kokkinakis. I mean, he played 2 back-to-back 5-set thrillers where it was fun to watch, and obviously didn't make it too much further. But yeah, a couple of honourable mentions to those guys as well. But I think Alcaraz Djokovic, rightly so, gets ATP Grand Slam Match of the Year. And maybe in a few years' time, we'll look back at it and say that could have been a potential turning point, but doesn't look like it's as significant as it might have been when it first happened anyway. ATP Best of 3 Match of the Year. Cam, well, actually, Gil, do you want to go?
Yeah, sure. This is also, I think, a slam dunk, and it's the Cincinnati final. This was, in a lot of ways, this was a more entertaining match if you just took the match and forgot about the fact that Wimbledon's a major, Cincinnati's a Masters 1000. Just because there was a point in time where you were absolutely positive that Alcaraz was going to win the match. The heat was getting to Novak. It was a set and a break for Alcaraz. And I think even the tennis TV commentators were like, oh, this match was not the match we were hoping for. What a shame. It's like, spoke too soon. Alcaraz gets a little sloppy in the second set, and then Novak wins a tight tiebreak. And then in the third set, you thought Novak's going to win this running away. I think he was up 5-3 or something like that. And it's like, well, this third set, this is not an epic set. This is he's going to win. That's it. And then it was like, no, he's not. Alcaraz saves a bunch of match points, and it ends up being, I forget if it was 7-6 or 7-5 in the third set tiebreak, but it was just a tremendously back and forth, like topsy turvy. You don't know what's coming next kind of match.
Yeah, no, I agree. Cam, what about you?
Yeah. I mean, it, again, just ticks the boxes. It's like 1 versus 2, and then it was almost like the trilogy of the year at that point, having the drama of French Open, then the Wimbledon match, then the rematch so quick. I mean, I don't usually get nervous before matches unless I'm watching maybe one of my favorites, like Leighton Hewitt back in the day. But I was nervous for these, which was weird. And then like you said, Djokovic had the troubles in the start. He was looking out of sorts, and then Alcaraz was kind of winning easily. And it's like, okay, well, does Alcaraz know how to beat Djokovic now? And that's just that's how it is now. And then Djokovic comes back, he saves the championship points, and then he wins the match. I think honorable mention for the Shanghai final with Hurkacz and Rublev, because that did tick a lot of boxes with drama, and the last set was the final set tiebreak and all the championship points. But I mean, again, 1-2. Djokovic, Alcaraz, which every match they've played this year, except for the ATP finals, but even then, before there was anticipation. But they're the 2 easy ones for me.
Yeah, no, it was an incredible final, wasn't it? And I think you're saying about nerves, Cam. Actually, I get what you're saying, because I feel like Djokovic Alcaraz this year, apart from maybe the ATP finals, but every other match going into it, I was thinking, I'm really unsure exactly how it's going to go. And even watching it, I would like to think when I'm starting to watch a match, I tend to get a feel of how I think the match is going to play out whilst watching it. But with Djokovic Alcaraz, I feel like every time I thought, oh, this is going to start playing out, like you were saying with the commentators on tennis TV, it just then flipped, and it kept on flipping. And there's these massive peaks and troughs in these matches between the two. And they're able to dig deep physically, and then they might feel a bit hampered in terms of the physicality, but then they pick themselves up really quickly. The level will drop, but then it'll go really high. And I feel like they bring the best out of each other, and it ends up being such a spectacle. So hopefully more of that in 2024. I actually was going to ask you guys, what do you think of Djokovic, Sinner, and the Davis Cup? Because I thought the level was very high then, from Sinner especially, and obviously saved 3 match points. It's a bit of a weird one because it's almost forgotten a little bit because it was right at the end of the year as well. Not as many people potentially tuning into it. But what do you think of the level of that one?
I think I would. I don't know. What about their round robin match at the Euro Championship? I think that might have been. I personally, I guess. I won't lie, and I'll say like some of my viewing habits biases are probably a part of this, but like I'm just more locked in for the ATP finals than I am for Davis Cup the next week. So I thought their round robin match in Turin was pretty much as good as it gets. So that would be an honorable mention for me, especially because of how much it meant for Sinner ultimately winning. I don't think it really matters that it was a round robin match and that he'd lose in the final. I still think that was an incredible moment for Jannik, especially it being in Italy, that I think he'll look back on this year and feel like that was just like a real signature match for him.
Yeah, I would add like if we're going to go with Sinner in other matches, I reckon Sinner, Alcaraz, Miami also like very high quality, except for maybe at the end when they sort of were both physically falling apart. But that's another one that I remember like when like watching it live was just like some of the shot making. I think it might have won Rally of the Year for the tennis tour.
It did for sure, and it absolutely was the best Rally of the Year. It wasn't the best shot of the year though, and I think they said shot of the year.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, that's where it loses me because the passing shot was good, but it wasn't.
Yeah. Alcaraz didn't need to fall over.
He fell over in exhaustion more than anything, I think. But it's funny actually. The tennis TV is because they had that one next to the Ben Shelton one, which was like a behind the back kind of like flick, and I was like, "That's a shot. This is a rally. This is Rally of the Year. This is shot of the year. Like, it's two different things." But yeah, they always get me on that because you're watching, you're like, "When's the shot coming?" I was like, after 40 shots. But no, yeah, I mean. Yeah, happy to give it to Djokovic and Alcaraz in Cincinnati. It was a fantastic match and definitely built anticipation for the US Open. And what could have been, obviously, if Alcaraz had beaten Medvedev and we had that final. Who knows? But I'm sure we'll get more of it. And we have to give props to Medvedev as well. He's just been very good throughout the year. Third category, most exciting tournament of the year for the ATP side. I can go. I've got two here. I don't know whether they're left field or not, but I've got Cincinnati and Shanghai. I thought they were really entertaining, and trying to pick a tournament that had an entertaining final, but also had some entertaining matches within the tournament because I feel like it's easy to get lost in it. Wimbledon, like Cam, you were saying, like the final was great, but there weren't that many great matches in the second week anyway. In the first week, there were some great ones. What did you guys have?
I had the ATP finals. I don't know if that's allowed.
That's allowed. Yeah, it's a tournament.
Well, yeah. I like the reason I thought that was because that felt the most memorable almost from the start, and there was a lot of things that happened. You know, Tsitsipas pulls out, Hurkacz gets in. Even before that, Hurkacz not getting in, it was like, oh, he deserved it after his final month of the year, and you thought, oh, he's going to be more of a, maybe more of a threat for some of those guys, and he pushed Djokovic to 3 when he got his match, and then the whole situation where it was Rune versus Sinner, and if Sinner wins, then Djokovic gets through, and is Sinner going to throw it, and is Rune going to get through because Sinner's like, oh, I'm going to play a little smart or strategic here, and that whole thing happened, and then the rematch between Sinner and Djokovic in the final, and then Alcaraz losing to Zverev, and then then coming through anyway, and then getting the rematch with Djokovic. Like there was just so many. There was only like maybe 1 or 2 matches that were kind of a bit boring. But it felt like every other match was good. And then, yeah, like I said, with Cincinnati, I'm just trying to think, like, what other matches were there? There was a couple of, I think, wasn't there like a Hurkacz Alcaraz?
Yeah.
I think Purcell played Alcaraz maybe in an interesting match. I don't know. Paul
every Alcaraz, that's the thing. Every Alcaraz match was good. I mean, it was other than, I don't know, like, what were some other ones, though, at Cincinnati?
Oh, yeah.
I can't even remember Djokovic.
I mean, Djokovic walked most of them, I think. Unless I'm wrong, but I mean, yeah. The problem is Sinner fell early in that one, so he played Zverev 7-6, 7-5 semi-final. Fritzy bailed him, one feast, nothing there really. So he didn't really have to. Well, he did have to, but he just walked it into the final, and then we just had that epic final, which is 7-6 in the decider, 7-4 in the tiebreaker. Or you could go left field and go for something like Rome with Medvedev winning, which could be a funny moment or outrageous moment, to be fair, rather than the tournament of the year. But, yeah, Gill, what did you put?
I was gonna kind of wait on you and try to be convinced by one argument or the other, honestly, on this one, because it's not an award that I usually do. I think it's interesting to think about. I don't think it was a major. Right. It didn't feel like any of the 4 slams actually stood out where it's like, wow, we're getting tons of great matches, especially the Australian Open. Like, you can draw a line after Rublev Runa, and then there were no good matches on the men's side. The women were good in Australia. But what's the Shanghai case? Can you make the Shanghai case?
On the Shanghai cases, the final was great. I think that kind of helps it. But then, to be honest, you look at the semi-finals, you've got Rublev, Dimitrov, 7-6, 6-3 straights, Hurkacz, Korda, 6-3, 6-4. I think it was more the anticipation around there being like no Djokvic. Alcaraz fell early. It was almost like it was exciting because it was so open, and he had all these players coming through, and it was like, oh, who's going to win? Who's going to win? He had Jarry in the quarterfinals as well. He had a really good year. Burr had a good year as well. Dimitrov has been really exciting this year, so I think it was more around that more than anything. I would say Marijan in the quarterfinals, he's been good. Shelton was in there as well. So exciting.
I'm not sold. I'm not sold. give me the ATP finals. I like that pick. I also think like the fact that it's a court surface that really feels one of a kind is also something that I like about the tournament. It just feels really fresh and different because of that.
Yeah. No, I agree. Actually, it was interesting because Alcaraz obviously made the point, which I think was taken out of context, saying they didn't. He didn't necessarily say he wasn't happy with the surface being quick. What he said is that the other surfaces, the other hard courts, weren't or aren't as quick as the ATP Tour final surface. And he's right in that sense, because there's a lot of slow hard courts that are almost as slow as clay, if not even slower in some instances. But I think like you, Gil, I love how quick it is, and I think it's great that we have like a quick indoor hard court, and it brings a different style, and that they should have that, on tour. So I really enjoyed, and I think after that first match against Zverev, he did manage to get to grips with it. So he seemed okay with it, to be fair. ATP Tour finals, I'm happy to go with that. Well, that was top 8 players in the world. I mean, you can't really go too wrong. Hopefully you get some good matches, and we did. We got quite a few.
Sometimes. I feel like there have been past couple of years, where there have been some underwhelming ones. But this one was great.
Yeah, last year, to be fair, wasn't great, was it? I think.
No.
Djokovic Rude final, and there wasn't too much. I think Djokovic.
Just not a lot of close matches last year.
Yeah. I think Sinner beating Djokovic really helped. And then you had Zverev beating Alcaraz. Those were 2 matches I think kind of were catalysts to propelling it forward. So that was great. This interesting one. ATP most impressive tournament run.
Medvedev.
You got Medvedev Rome. Medvedev Rome. Okay.
100%. I mean, it was basically the most famous surface weakness on tour, right? It was if you were to say, give me an example of why surfaces matter in tennis, most people would say surfaces matter because Medvedev can't win a clay court tournament. And bang. And by the way, he won like all of his matches in straights.
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
The level was awesome. It didn't feel like he got draw help. The draw wasn't even easy. So I mean, he 100% earned it.
100%. No, 100%.
Yep.
I'm gonna throw a couple out there before Cam goes. Well, that Shelton US Open semi-final, that was a big one. I didn't think he was gonna make it that far. And then you could argue, which isn't really, it's very impressive, but the Alcaraz win at Wimbledon. I don't know how many people actually picked him to win Wimbledon. as well. But Cam, what did you have?
Yeah, I was leaning Wimbledon Alcaraz. I guess the difference with like the Shelton, because I was thinking, oh yeah, Shelton US Open, but like he didn't win the tournament, and then also like he beat beat Tiafoe, he beat Paul, but it's like Alcaraz beating Djokovic in the final, beating Medvedev in the semis, and going through Wimbledon, and then Rome. I mean, Medvedev hates clay, said it many times. Never won a clay court event. He beats Zverev, Tsitsipas, and then Rune in the final, who just beat Djokovic. And you thought, oh well, Rune's going to win this because he made the Monte Carlo final, and now he's going to get his here. He beats Djokovic, who was a defending champion. So I was thinking, I didn't even think of Medvedev for this category, but Medvedev in Rome is more impressive than the Wimbledon Alcaraz, because I think Alcaraz beat he beat Berrettini,
Rune and Medvedev.
The Rune.
But then I actually think it was a tough draw. Berrettini third round, Jarry fourth round.
Well, yeah.
Jarry was really tough. He struggled with that Jarry match because Jarry playing some really good tennis as well, but when the draw came out, I was thinking he's got no chance. Honestly, that's what I was like. He has to get through all these killers like back to back. Like it's difficult because just the head to head and looking at the big servers and big hitters. But yeah, I agree. I think Medvedev Rome is definitely the one to go for, just because of how impressive it was in terms of how he equipped himself on a surface that he clearly isn't in love with in Rome, and managed to pull off what was an almighty victory against some top clay court contenders. So,
and then he lost in the French Open first round, which I think made it even more impressive.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, Cam, for the next category.
Yeah, he showed us like how he really feels after that.
Yeah, talking about Medvedev getting upset, ATP Upset of the year. So, I mean, that's one, isn't it? Medvedev versus Seyboth Wild in the Roland Garros second round. I mean, that was a big one. I've actually got 3 others, but I'll let you guys go first because there's quite a few. But Cam, did you have any others?
Yeah, I think the one that I found the most crazy was Djokovic didn't lose too many matches that you thought. I mean, besides losing Lajovic in Bosnia, that felt a little bit weird. But I've got Marijan beating Alcaraz in Rome. I thought that a qualifier that nobody had heard of really, and then after coming off Madrid, where most of the other guys had been playing, didn't play too well in Madrid, except for Alcaraz, who won the whole thing. That one just felt so out of nowhere. He just got Alcaraz just got dropped. Just the drop shots just killed it.
Drop shotted.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
And there was other matches like I think Safiullin in Paris at the end of the year, but then you thought, oh well, the surface maybe Alcaraz isn't happy. Like not indoor hard courts is not really where he's going to thrive or where he was going to thrive this year. So coming off injuries too, so that one was the one for me. And then Medvedev losing the first round of the French after winning Rome was a bit of a shock too. But I got Marijan beating Alcaraz as my one.
That's mine as well. And I mean, first of all, Alcaraz was red hot. He was playing unbelievable tennis first half of the year. So, I mean, he was in the semis of every event he played. But the biggest thing, and I was getting some pushback when I was saying, like, this is one of the biggest upsets of the decade. And people were like, why are you overrating Alcaraz? It's like, I'm not. It's Marijan. That's who makes it such a big upset. He hadn't done anything before the week. He didn't have a tour win. He didn't have a top 100 win before the week. That's why it was a generational upset. So that's it for me. I mean, even you look at Thiago Zajbac-Vilch, if I may pronounce his name in the bizarre way that it's ultimately pronounced. Even he won a title in 2019. So his ranking was low. He qualified, but we all know the guy has really, really good talent. But Marijan, we were just hearing about.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I don't think I'd even heard of him when he was playing. I was like, "Who's this guy?" And then he beat him, and I thought, "Oh, maybe I should find out a bit more about him." But yeah, he was incredible to watch, to be honest. And I make a joke on the channel of that I taught Alcaraz a drop shot, and clearly I didn't teach him it very well in that match because he didn't perform very well on that day. The others I had, which are not as impressive to be fair as this one, Altmaier versus Sinner at Roland Garros round 2, Stricker versus Tsitsipas in the US Open again in round 2, and Alcaraz making an appearance against Safiullin in the Paris Masters, but again indoor hard court. So Safiullin is not a bad player on paper in comparison, I think, to Marijan in terms of ranking anyway. So yeah, happy to give it to Alcaraz, Marijan in Rome. Definitely a big upset for sure, especially because people thought, oh, okay, he's probably going to do well at Rome and then go into Roland Garros and be a massive threat. And he did go deep at Roland Garros, but didn't lift the trophy in the end. ATP Funniest Moment of the Year. There's a few of them. What did you guys have? Cam's laughing, so I'll go with you first.
The only thing I could, well, the funniest thing I could think of was the Medvedev dance off after he beat Tsitsipas. That was just such. It was so funny. I thought it was so funny for so many reasons. Like, first of all, it was just like a horrible. It was horrible. It was hard to watch because you're like, oh god, is that really what he? Is that how he's going to dance? But then the fact that it was a response to what Tsitsipas had done in Cincy, even though he played it off like it wasn't. But like, I just thought, of course, that's just such a Medvedev. It was up there in terms of like when he did the dead fish after winning the US Open. It was like that was just such a classic Medvedev moment in his compilation of highlights in terms of celebrations. I thought it was just the first thing that popped to my head. I was like, oh, when Medvedev did the dance, that was just so good. It was just so funny.
Yeah, he's full of highlight moments, isn't he? Gill, what about you?
So I remember Tsitsipas beat him in Cincinnati, right? And then did the dance, right? Then Medvedev beat him where? And then danced back, or was Medvedev first to dance?
I think it was
Medvedev was second, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think Cincinnati. So Tsitsipas beats him in Cincy. They played the ATP Finals, I think, and also I think Steph won that one too. They might have played once in between. If they didn't play in between, then that might have been. I know there was like it might have been the Rublev and Tsitsipas had that kind of like thing where Tsitsipas said, "Oh, I'm surprised he beat me with no weapons," and then Medvedev took that a little personal, and so there was that as well, and then the dance. It might have. I don't know if it was.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, was there one? I don't know if there was one between. If they played between, but it might have been the rematch maybe of that. But I just thought it was just such a direct. Like, because Tsitsipas' dance wasn't any better. It's not like either of them knew what they were doing.
I actually think it was worse because I think Medvedev's dance looked like somebody like pretending to dance like ironically, and I felt Tsitsipas was a little bit too like it almost didn't. It almost looked like he was trying harder. So I thought his dance was worse, but. I thought about the Medvedev Zverev beef, where like Zverev and I'm a little fuzzy on the details, but essentially
he ran to the toilet, didn't he? I think.
Yeah, but Zverev called him unsportsmanlike.
Yeah.
Zverev basically said that he's unsportsmanlike. Yeah. Medvedev's response was such a takedown, like it was such a KO of Zverev that was to me. I don't know, outrageous, funny, but it stuck in my head.
Yeah, I think because he got the stick for the net post and just threw it on the floor.
Right.
And Zverev was smiling at the time, but then he also like ran to the toilet quickly, like in between, and he was taking his time. And I think he just started complaining to the umpire. He was not happy, Zverev at all. I think if he'd won, he probably wouldn't have said anything. I think that's what Medvedev was like. That's what he said after, didn't he? He said, "Oh, when he's winning." Doesn't say anything.
He said 15 things. Like it was a total essay. He even was like, "Why are you bringing up my wife in the trophy ceremonies? Like you've never met my wife." Like,
oh man, yeah. I mean, there's a few for him because I've got here the one where he's complaining to the chair umpire. I think where was it? Would it have been? Miami, maybe, when he's saying to the chair umpire, he goes, I'm a specialist on hard courts. I know what hard courts
Indian
are.
Wells.
This is not a hard court. And he's basically telling the chair umpire's like, how can you tell me it's not a hard court? He's like, no, I'm telling you, this is not a hard court. And he's like complaining to him. And then also, I've got 2 Djokvic ones, which is one, him telling the British crowd to shut up, basically in the Davis Cup, which I thought was hilarious when the British crowd were against him. And it was actually, he told them to shut up in the post-match, like on the mic. So he's on court and he tells them to shut up basically midway. And also Djokovic doing the telephone celebration, which I think everyone forgot about, Shelton, right? In response. And obviously that's like one of those really cold, like thug life Djokovic moments where you just like don't mess with him. But I thought that was quite funny. But Medvedev, I mean, he's got really funny moments, to be honest. He's an absolute crack up. And
Can we just give it to Medvedev?
Yeah, just Medvedev.
Not even a moment, just Medvedev.
Yeah. I think Medvedev's fine, Most outrageous moment. What did you guys have for this? There's a few. No?
Well, I think Djokovic hanging up the phone was I was thinking about going that direction. It was shocking, it was not expected. And then even the handshake, it was icy and it got everybody talking and everybody took a side and it was kind of fun.
It was, yeah. It was, wasn't it? And it's interesting because, what Shelton said after about it, I wasn't raised that way and everything. And but he seemed okay with it. He took it quite well. And then it was after Djokovic did it, a lot of other players started doing it. Like Musetti did it, I think, in one of the tournaments, and other people. It was quite funny. But I also had, which is drama really that started in 2022 in the Paris Masters between Rune and Wawrinka, but then carried on in this match at Indian Wells when obviously he told him to stop being a baby on the court. Wasn't in Paris when he lost Wawrinka. He had match points in the second set, lost in 3. And then when Wawrinka beat him this year, Rune goes, "You don't have anything to say now? You don't have anything to say now?" in his voice, which seems so innocent as well when he's talking, Rune. And I just thought, Wawrinka's like, "What do you want to say?"
I won.
Sitting there thinking, "What's going on? What is going on?" Oh, it was crack up. Holger Rune is just. He seems like Marmite at the moment. I love him or hate him. I think he's great. I think he's just clearly. He's a youngster, right? So he'll take him time. He's just very at times, but he's definitely a personality for sure. But I'm happy to give it to. I think all of those are fine. So we're going to have to pick one. I actually had put Klaverdev winning Rome, but we gave him the tournament run of the year, so we don't need to give him that as well. But that was outrageous in its own right, I think. To be fair. Well, this is a good one though. Nah. So ATP Most Improved Player of the Year. I had a few here and rankings, but I'll go to you guys first. Gill, who did you have?
I have Sinner. It might not be the classic candidate for the award, somebody who went from outside the top 100 to top 30 or something like that. Obviously, Jannik was in the mix. I think his lowest ranking this year was like 17. I think he entered the year maybe like 14. But, to finish number 4, to have the finish to the year that he had, I just think the mid-season improvement was really, really something else. Like the clay season, especially with the Altmaier loss, there was actually a lot of, I think, frustration among Sinner fans, some impatience setting in. When is he going to contend and ultimately win big titles? And he had the breakthrough in Canada, which was kind of the draw opening up for him. I think it was still a big deal for him. But it wasn't really until after the U.S. Open. I mean, he goes on a tear of tears. And if you look at his record against like top 5 players post-U.S. Open, he picks up like 6 top 5 wins or something of the sort just after the U.S. Open. And, sometimes I actually like kind of devalue that time of year. But if we're talking about most improved, I'm actually looking at it differently. I'm saying you've been able to kind of hone your skills and get better in so many areas to the point where you're a completely different player at the end of the season than you were in the beginning of the season. So that's why I think it should go to Sinner.
Yeah, he actually had 2 head-to-heads with Djokovic and Medvedev where he'd never beaten them before. And then, as you said, Gil, in the back end after the US Open, he beat them. Djokovic, well, multiple times, because Djokovic beat him twice. Davis Cup, ATP Tour finals. Medvedev, he beat him in, I think it was 2 finals, if I'm not mistaken. Or he beat him twice anyway, at least. And that was really impressive because I think he was 7 love was the head-to-head, or 7-0 was the head-to-head versus Medvedev before that. Djokovic, I think it was only 3 love or 3-0. So going into that, you're thinking if he can get wins here, like mentally, it's a massive boost. But actually, it shows clear improvements because he's never beaten these guys before. So it's clear that he's improved, and it wasn't a one-off. He beat them a couple of times. So that was super impressive. And yeah, he improved from 15 to 4 within the year ranking wise. Cam, who did he have?
Yeah, I mean, I've got Sinner. I think that, post US Open, beating Djokovic 2 out of 3 in 2 weeks, beating Alcaraz, beating Medvedev for the first time. Also, I mean, going back to because I remember he lost to Tsitsipas in Australia. I think that might have been a 5-setter. Yeah, and it was like, oh god, and I think the frustration with Sinner was Alcaraz was doing all this stuff. Rune was starting to beat Djokovic, for example, and then it was like, Sinner hasn't done any of those things. He's pushed Alcaraz, that's great, but and then after Miami, he can't beat Medvedev, but then he beat Tsitsipas, I think, for the second time in their 7 meetings or something. So that was kind of in February. And I guess up until the US Open, you would have said Shelton for this one. I would have said Shelton for this one because you thought, well, Shelton went from 12 months ago, he won 3 indoor hard court events in a row in America. And then he's in the semifinal. He's had 2 good runs at slams, but then Sinner, it's almost like you've got to give it first half of the year to one guy. And then the second half you go, well, from Sinner, it was, from the US Open onwards, besides that one loss, I think he had to Shelton. And then the loss to Djokovic, every other match, I don't know. Who did he lose to? Did he lose in Paris? Who did he lose in Paris? I can't remember. But beating Djokovic.
Didn't he just he withdrew?
Oh, right? No, he had to pull out. Yeah, the scheduling
he finished
thing.
Late.
Yeah.
He finished late, didn't he? Yeah.
He lost to the tournament scheduling. Yeah, that was it.
Lost the tournament.
Yeah. So you got to give it to Sinner because I mean he beats Djokovic 2 out of 3. Has anyone beaten Djokovic 2 times in 2 weeks?
No. Wow.
In recent memory, outside of Nadal or Federer, I mean, that's just something in itself. And then beating the last match, beating Djokovic that Davis Cup. I mean, from match points, especially playing for the country, all those things. But it's got to be Sinner for me as well.
Yeah, I actually
shout out Eubanks as well.
Yeah, Eubanks. Yeah,
Eubanks. I had 3 others that you have mentioned. I had Jarry, who went from 152 to 19. I thought he was he went under the radar, maybe because obviously he's not from America or the UK, so he's from Chile, so he went under the radar. But I was keeping a close eye on him. I like his style of play as well. He was really impressive, I thought, this year. Dimitrov, a bit different. I mean, 28 to 14, but it's more the fact that he had the results he had, thought were good. And Struff was 167 to 21. Made the final of
Madrid. Right?
Was it Madrid? It was Madrid. Yeah.
As a lucky loser, was it?
Yeah, he lost to Alcaraz. Yeah, he lost to Alcaraz.
Yeah.
You're right. It was Madrid. But I'm happy to go with Sinner, 15 to 4, and obviously the way that he improved. But yeah, definitely some mentions there. And Shelton was 96 to 17, so that was really impressive as well. So in that kind of bracket of Jarry and Struff in terms of improvement. So
can we just talk about how did Struff win Comeback Player of the Year ahead of Zverev? Does anyone know why that happened?
So I know he was injured, but I don't think he was injured for as long as Zverev. So maybe because of his ranking as well. Maybe in how he rocked.
I know it's voted by, I think, players.
I'm not sure what exactly his class is comeback of the year. Is it from injury specifically, or is it form as well?
Well, yes. It has to be a comeback from injury. So you can't. Some people suggest certain players, and it's like, what are they coming back from? Having a bad year?
Bad year,
yeah. I guess the one thing with Zverev is if you actually look at, yes, he got back to where he was before the injury, I would say. Struff surpassed where he was at, and he's 32 years old. So I think it was a little more surprising what Struff did. I think maybe the argument. And then also, if it's voted by the players, I mean, or honestly, any human beings, I don't know if some people just don't want to vote Zverev because he has another off-court DV thing going on.
Yeah, that's true.
And
also, he always puts himself in there as well.
Yeah. Well, I think I look back and Coric won last year, and most people would have thought Nadal coming back last year was more of a comeback. But then maybe if you played half the previous season and then you have 6 months off and come back, maybe that's not enough time either.
Yeah.
Or,
That's true.
But yeah. Anyway, sorry, just going off track.
Cam's like banging his Zverev drum. The Zverev fans happy.
I was just wondering. I was just like, he wasn't even on my radar, Struff, for that award. I think he was maybe in the top 5, but I was just like,
really? I gave it to Monfils. Yeah. And most people, just for the Monday Match Analysis Awards, most of the comments who took issue with the selection were like, you should have made Zverev comeback player of the year.
Oh, really?
I just think, I think he deserves massive props for coming back to what he was. That said, if you look at the scope of his career, it wasn't, he didn't do anything this year that was particularly triumphant in the context of what he's accomplished in his career.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, agreed. Yeah. I think if he wins a Masters tournament, for example, or something along those lines, and you're thinking, okay, wow. But he was impressive, but definitely took him time. And it's understandable given his type of injury as well. But yeah, I think Sinner rightfully gets it. But the others, definitely honourable mentions. And Struff, Struff and Jerry, I've got a little bit of a soft spot for because of the way they play as well, like big serving and entertaining. So. But
you hate defense?
No comment.
Oh, no.
It has its let's just say it has its qualities and entertainment value in its own right. But yeah, I do like a bit of offense, as you guys would say in America. ATP Most Disappointing Player of the Year. This is always interesting. I never say worst player of the year because I feel like that's really harsh. The most disappointing. Cam, you hate it because someone asked you to do it on yours, and you were like, that's a bit harsh.
I backed to. I was going to do it, but I feel like I say enough when I'm live, so I don't want people know how I feel. I think I got 2. I think overall from January to the end of the year, besides winning Basel, it was Felix Auger-Aliassime, especially after last year. It felt like he won his first title. He won 3 in 3 weeks.
He did.
He beat Alcaraz, I think, along that way too. And it was just like, here, we're finally, he's here. If you've been following him for the last few years, you're like, yes, this is it. Here he is. And then he got injured. He had injuries, but it just was like he just played so. It just felt like he was playing so defensive and safe, and he just did nothing until Basel, and then it kind of. Made it, and also Canada winning the Davis Cup at the end of the year last year, and it was like, yes, okay, here he is. So he was disappointing. It was almost, and then he went on a run of losing he lost. It felt like every first round he was just going out, and it was just like, okay, great. But then I think post Australian Open for me was Tsitsipas. I think that he just, and I know what the comments are going to be, and it's not her fault.
Stop Tsitsidosa hating. Come on.
Yeah. It's because because they got together and then he started playing bad. No, I think he only won one title. That was a 250 event where he beat up Dimonor as he does often. But after the Australian Open, he Tsitsipas just disappeared. So they were both very disappointing for me.
Yeah, fair enough. I just think it's hard. For me, and a lot of it is the Australian Open, but it's hard for me to say you were the most disappointing player of the year when you finish 6th in the world. I think if your expectation was high for him, you would have been like, oh, you'll finish maybe 4, right? So for him to finish 2 spots lower, but I totally get it. It felt like there weren't any positive moments after Australia. I was going to say Felix. It was a breakout 2022. He did things he'd never done before. And you were kind of going into this year like, okay, wow, you really killed it on the indoor hard courts. So next step, just bring a little bit of that success to in any other conditions, and you're golden. And it got much worse than anybody could have expected.
Yeah, Felix was an interesting one because, as you said, he had such a good indoor swing, you could say, in the back end of last year, and then also he made big improvements on the clay, which was like the one surface where you thought, oh, he's really struggling on it. I don't think he'd won a match at Roland Garros until last year, and then he had that really good match against Rafa in the fourth round, and you're like, wow, he's made great improvements on this surface. Tony Da's doing wonders, and then this year it's almost been, are you trying to play like you're a clay court specialist on all surfaces? Because that's what it's coming across as, in terms of, like, he just lacked a lot of confidence, I think, was the main thing, and is very passive, and that happens when you lack confidence. I get that. And maybe he just went through a lean patch this year and he'll be back. And
he had the knee injury.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he had a knee injury as well. So I think, we can't be too harsh, but I think given that his ranking went from 6 to 29, it's fair that we're discussing his performance. And also, he's gone deep at slams, and this year it wasn't the same. He didn't really have any marquee runs at slams, and that was really disappointing from my point of view, because he's an exciting player, but there just hasn't seemed like there's been any improvements this year specifically. But he's still young, so it's not the end of the world, but definitely not a great year. Tsitsipas, I get why Cam was saying it, because I think it's more, he had such a massive high making the final of the Australian Open, and then all of a sudden it was like you've barely reached anywhere near that for the rest of the year. So that's what I think was a bit frustrating. As a neutral tennis fan watching him, I was just thinking, come on. And I get he had some injuries as well, so that's fair enough. But one I wanted to put in there as well was Shapovalov, who's also had some injuries. Another Canadian, sorry, Canada fans, but 18 to 109. I mean, he's like plummeted down the rankings, and his style of play is always really erratic anyway, because he's going to go for his shots, and he's always going to be a little bit up and down. But given, if you think about in 2021, he had that match against Djokvic on Wimbledon. I think it was it semi-finals?
Yes.
Semi-finals, yeah.
Yeah.
And it looked like he actually might have a chance. He was playing some really good tennis. If you take that Shapovalov and then look at him now, I mean, we're talking about two completely different players. So again, lacking confidence and injuries, etc. But yeah, we won't give it to anyone specifically so that people don't get upset. But I think it's fine to discuss these players as well.
I think at least with Dennis, we know that, like, the knee really kept him out, for long stretches of time, and that really killed his year.
Yeah.
Where for Felix, he missed a little bit of time. He missed like 2-3 weeks. That was it. He played the rest of the season.
Yeah. And actually, one that I had noted down, but then I looked at his ranking, was Taylor Fritz, because maybe it's just because I have really high expectations of him at slams. Like for this year, I had high expectations or hopes. I didn't quite feel like he went as far as I thought he might. But he stayed pretty consistent rankings-wise, so there wasn't any reason to put him in there. But I think from a Grand Slam point of view, I think maybe he would have been a bit disappointed with how he did this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
ATP,
I think one last thing. I think with Tsitsipas, I think him and Casper Ruud, you take away their final. Like Ruud only dropped something like 4 spots, he went from 2 to 11, didn't he? He was number 2 at the end of last year.
Yeah,
but we kind of. Yeah, I guess with Ruud, it's like, well, he made the French Open final, but he only won a small tournament too. I mean, him and Tsitsipas might be in the same boat, but exactly what you guys were saying. All the other stuff, all the other players, for sure. And yeah, Chapo. I mean, I don't remember watching Chapo once this year, so he must have been out for a while.
Yeah, no, he was. I think I watched him. He was with Alcaraz in one of the clay court tournaments, but again, clay's not really his best surface as well. ATP Young Player of the Year. I've got a couple of choices here. I can go first on this one. So I had Ben Shelton as one suggestion. As I said earlier, rankings from 96 to 17, so really impressive. Also won Tokyo, if I'm not mistaken. And I had Arthur Fields as well. Won Lyon. Again, like big jump in the rankings. Made the final of the Next Gen Finals, which tends to be a pretty good sign as well. Who do you guys have?
Shelton.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the runs at the slams, very unconventional for him to have so little success between the Australian Open and the US Open. But obviously we put a lot of weight into that, especially because the US Open path was a lot tougher. I think he showed a lot of improvements in his game. The Tokyo run, though, was also really reaffirming. I mean, you wanted to see him do something in best of 3 and, to win your first title, for it to be a 500, to beat Jannik Sinner on that run, and Sinner barely lost to anybody in that stretch of time. Really, really good. And, he also brings a flair and an excitement and explosiveness to the way he plays that is going to get your attention already. So, I mean, for me, it's Shelton over Arthur Feast pretty easily. Feast was impressive, but in contrast to Shelton, it was almost everything happening at 250s for him.
Yeah.
I mean, Shelton hadn't left the country until January when he left and came to Australia.
Yeah.
But
incredible.
Yeah, it's got to be Shelton. I mean, Shelton. It was impressive. You get to the quarterfinals in Australia, and then after that, he I know he played a couple of big boys. He played, I think, Fritz maybe, and he might have played Runa, and had a couple of chances against the big guys and didn't do anything, didn't beat them. And then he does it again, and then he goes away for the clay season. We don't really see him on the grass. And then even before the US Open, doesn't do much. Then he has the US Open run. The whole Djokvic thing was, I think, added to it. And then post that, you thought, is he going to have another, is he just going to go away again? Is it just 2 big tournaments? And then, wins. I think he beat Sinner in Shanghai when no one else was beating Sinner, or no one else did beat Sinner. And then, then wins Tokyo. I think he was down in one of those matches too. He was down and out, and he came back and he wins, and then he beats, I think, Karatsev in the final. So it's got to be him. And Feast, interesting, because the ATP Awards gave it to Feast, and that's another one that puzzled me, because everyone was thinking, well, Shelton, he's 20, 21 years old. Also the Laver Cup, I think that gets overlooked, Shelton's part in that as well. Playing I think he might have beat Feast in that too. So
did the ATP say we aren't slams, so disregard slams?
Maybe,
maybe that's true. Yeah.
So his ranking went from 251 to 251 to 36. So okay. I don't know whether they factored that in as well. So that's pretty impressive. He went a bit under the radar. I think obviously he's not as flashy and doesn't have as much flair as Shelton, but I guess the slam factor could be it as well, because Fields had a lot more success on the smaller tournaments, or in the smaller tournaments, than Shelton, because he didn't do much actually until Tokyo. Really, he was more in the big majors that he actually did something. So, but happy to give it to Shelton. I think it's deserved given the semi-final run at the US Open quarterfinals, Australia, Tokyo title. I mean, he's now in the top 20 as well, so it's definitely a marquee year for him. Hopefully he can kick on. And that match against Sinner, I watched it kind of end to end, and I remember watching it thinking, look, Sinner's playing some great tennis, but Shelton, the way that he was able to just handle that and come out victorious in a really tight match as well, I thought was really impressive. So seems to have a very strong mental capacity as well, which is always a really good sign in a youngster. So good for him. And also I know you like it, Gill, as well, his college mentality as well. But it's quite fresh, I think, on tour, for sure.
I'm neutral. I don't know where you heard I like it.
Sorry, you don't like it. No, sorry, neutral.
I'm completely, I'm like Switzerland. I don't know.
I love it. More of it. We need more. We need more Americans like that.
Cam is pro-curious than
curious fan. So
no. In all seriousness, I almost always defend any behavior that isn't destructive to other people by tennis players. I'm always like, it's cool. However, I also just like to allow fans to think whatever they want. If you want to hate Ben, cool.
Cool. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. ATP Best Player of the Year. I think this is pretty straightforward, but I'll go to you guys. Cam, who do you have?
Yep, Djokvic. I mean, it's 3 out of 4 slams. He lost one match. I mean, it was almost better than 2021. I mean, it's people are saying it was his best season yet. I mean, when you don't play Nadal or Federer in a season, I think it's hard to say like the 2015, 2011 weren't better because of the guys he had to beat. But yeah, I mean, Djokvic, even at the end of the year when he did lose to Sinner a couple of times, I mean, he had one bad loss. He lost to Medvedev, I think, which wasn't that bad because Medvedev does beat guys. He loses to Lajovic, which was a shock. He lost to Rune, which he's lost to before. There's just so many matches that he didn't have a bad. It was only like in Bosnia. I mean, Rublev lost to Lajovic too. So that's the only one that
Monte Carlo was on clay and he's injured as well. I think wasn't he a little bit?
Yeah, well, he had the elbow, didn't he? He lost to Musetti too, I guess. But yeah, it's just there's not really. I mean, yeah, there's no bad.
7 losses in a year. I think it was nothing.
Yeah, and he didn't play.
Six losses.
He didn't play Indian Wells, Miami. He didn't play Madrid. He didn't play Shanghai or Canada, and he still finished number 1 by a mile. Yeah. It's like, I mean, it's so there's no one else.
3 slams.
Yeah,
go on, Gill.
Well, I mean, 2 things. Also, you can throw the ATP Finals in there because that's the 5th biggest tournament, and he also won that. And then I do a category called Performance of the Year, where usually, like, we always talk about these epic matches, right? And they have to be close, otherwise they're not epic. But I also like to acknowledge when somebody just plays incredible and just blows the brakes off of their opponent. So I'm looking at the candidates for that, and I just realize, oh my God, Djokovic won all 3 of his major finals in straight sets, and he won that ATP Finals match, the championship against Sinner. He won that straightforward as well. Like, nobody even came close to beating him in any of these finals. So I just want to add that.
Yeah, no, I agree, and that's why when I was picking the ATP Grand Slam match of the year, the reason why I was looking at it thinking it's so straightforward is because the 3 slams Djokovic won, as you said, he won in straight sets and won it so comprehensively. It's like you can't even look at those as Grand Slam match of the year because he just completely cleaned up, in honesty, and it was so impressive. But yeah, as you guys said, 3 slams, I think 7 titles in total, 90% win-to-loss ratio, which was like phenomenal for the year. And yeah, I actually think his, in my opinion, the best performance of the year, and it's backed up by stats, so I'm just going to say, was, Tennis Insights have their ratings of performance. So he had a 9.75 out of 10 for the ATP Tour Finals final. That's the level that he was playing at. So it was the highest rating of the year. So I guess it might be harder to maintain that level over a best of 5 or 3 sets. So maybe a caveat there as well. But yeah, I mean, he was so impressive, and I don't think you can really give it to anyone else. I know Cam you said it on your award as well, and Gill. I mean, if anyone else gives it to someone, it's just probably because they don't like Djokovic more than anything else. But I think subjectively you have to give it to him, or objectively even.
Objectively.
Yeah, objectively, exactly.
Or subjectively. Either one.
Exactly. Before we jump onto the WTA, is there anything you guys want to say on the ATP side before we wrap up that side?
Yeah, I need to make sure that my laptop doesn't die. So hold on.
Okay.
I think the next one's going to, like the WTA, I feel like it's going to be a lot. We're going to have a lot of
more open. Yeah,
we're going to have a lot of different answers, I reckon, which is good. The ATP was, besides Alcaraz beating Djokovic a couple of times at Sinner, I think it was just dominated by Djokovic. What did you guys think of the Coach of the Year winner for the ATP Awards? Because that was a big.
Oh yeah,
that was a thing as well. That was another controversial choice.
Yeah, I mean that's how the award works. It never goes to a coach like Ivanisevic, and I think Novak knows that. And I think he's just being supportive of his guy, which, I mean, anybody should do that, right? Like, everybody should think their coach should be Coach of the Year. But yeah, of course, like, that award always goes to basically the most improved player of the year. It's kind of a one-to-one. Like, but usually I think the difference is usually it's somebody who improved at the top of the game. Like I remember Nicholas Massou won it the year Team won a major. Like that makes sense. So that's my thoughts.
I think Norrie won it in 21. Norrie's coach won it in 21 when Djokovic was dominating, and that was that's interesting. Last year made sense with Alcaraz, but okay, because that was a whole thing too.
The only year where like Novak's coach would get it, and I wonder if I look back, I wonder if he did, like 2011 Vida. That would be the year where you get a coach of the year.
100%, because that year was almost it came from nowhere, because obviously he'd won a slam, and then it was like bam, 2011, right, just completely sweep everything, and it was like we haven't seen this, so just went in, but definitely. And it's funny, the Ivanisevic one, if you see on Twitter, everyone just gave him such a hard time, saying why would he win it? But people that thought he shouldn't have won it were saying either what Gill was saying, or the sensible, or they were saying, well, he doesn't really need a coach. What does Ivanisevic do? He doesn't really do much. Djokovic is so old, and, he's so experienced. He's just there as like a mascot, I made the point that maybe it's the case, and obviously he's very experienced, and you expect that maybe the level of coaching isn't as hands-on potentially as some other players who are younger, but at the same time, we don't know really what goes on unless you've got some inside track into what's going on in their training camp. Then it's difficult to really know. So I think I'll be careful about what we say on that. But yeah, it's an interesting one. Actually, before we go on to WTA, I wanted to ask you guys. So Djokovic obviously has now won 3 out of 4 slams, and you were saying, Cam, that you think his best season, right, was one in 2011, 2015. But I did a video recently comparing his 2023 to his 2015. What season do you think, Gill and Cam, is Djokovic's best season of his career so far, and why?
Well, I've got to go with one of those. I think I'm trying to think. Well, 2011, because I remember it was Nadal, Federer, that was it, and then there was Murray and Djokovic. It was kind of like the two. It was like clear out of the top 4. There was a clear line between 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And then Djokovic broke that in 2011. 2015, I think, is like statistically his best.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, it is statistically.
So, if you want to go by that, but then 2015, I don't know, it was Federer and Nadal around as much in those years.
I think Nadal wasn't. So the argument is that Nadal wasn't necessarily playing his best tennis at that time, but then you could argue
Federer had a good year.
But Federer had a good year. He beat him three times out of the 7 losses that he had, I think it was. And Murray was in his prime at that time. Okay. Murray was playing really well at that time.
I guess it depends on how high you rate Murray compared to Nadal and Federer as well. I would say, 2011, because that's what sort of broke through. Did he get Boris in 2015 or 2011? I can't remember that either, but I'll go 2011.
I want to say,
but I think they're better than 2023. I don't think 2023 was his best. I think this is top 5. But
yeah, you could say this 2023 was his most impressive just because of the age, but you can't say it's his best. And I like 2011 as well. I remember really well, first of all, the winning streak, and that's probably the best he's ever played. You can never replicate that. Like when you're on that kind of tear and you are kind of young and new, and it just seemed like something special was going on there. Like, I don't know, like Federer started 2017. You can't replicate that. Like the whole, I have no expectations and I'm just going to play incredible. Anyway, and then like, I'm just looking at the 2011 year right now. Australian Open, he beats I'm just going to read semifinal, final. It's Federer, Murray at the Australian Open. Indian Wells, it's Federer, Nadal. Miami, it's Fish, Nadal. Let me go to Roland Garros. That's the one he lost. He lost to Federer. And then Wimbledon, it's Tsonga, Nadal. US Open, it's Federer, Nadal. So many of these, at the end of these tournaments, he's beating definitely one of the big 4, but a lot of the time 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at his 2015 year, actually, because it's a good point to be made on that. I think maybe not.
Like how many Murray Federer?
So he had Australian Open. Yeah, you're right. Australian Open, Wawrinka. I mean, I guess we forget about Wawrinka, but
Yeah.
Wawrinka Murray, because he lost to Wawrinka Roland Garros final. So do we chuck Wawrinka in there 2015? I don't know. Wawrinka Murray to win Australia. Dubai lost to Federer in the final. So Indian Wells, he beat Murray and then Federer. Miami beat Isner, then Murray. Beat Nadal, Burdick, Monte Carlo, Ferrer, Federer, Rome. French Open beat Nadal and Murray, then lost to Wawrinka.
Ooh.
Pretty damn good, eh? Then Gasquet, Federer. Wimbledon run was weird. Look at it. Gasquet and then Federer in the final. Murray lost him in Canada, lost to Federer in Cincinnati. Beat Cilic and then Federer US Open. So I don't know. Ferrer,
not
Nadal.
quite as much as 2011.
Yeah. Paris Masters, Wawrinka Murray. Look at his ATP Tour finals though. Lost to Federer, but then beat Burdick, Nadal, and then Federer. All right.
Well,
yeah, I don't know.
Finals.
Leave it up to the aficionados in the comments. But but yeah, no, I think is you guys got. It's interesting, right? Because you guys went to 2011, and I think it's definitely 2011 or 2015 as well. For some reason, I tend to gravitate towards 2015 more. I don't know whether it's because of a little bit of recency bias as well, but just because I was kind of more aware of it, I think, at the time. But yeah, 2021, 2023 are great seasons, but just because he didn't play as much, it's difficult to give it to those. But obviously astounding given his age.
And if you name the players from 21 semi-finals and finals, there won't be Nadal, Federer, Nadal, Federer, Nadal, Federer, Murray, Nadal, Federer.
Yeah, Murray,
which is way more impressive.
It's true. Yeah, who knows? Root could win 10 slams. So never know.
Yeah.